Hello, it's me again, Kathryn Evans, the author, and I thought I would talk to you a little bit today about character development. So I am going to give you my 5 top tips in how to make your characters more believable. But character is not all about external appearances, and my number 1 tip to you is to think about your character's desires. Now, the reason that's my number 1 tip is because that will quite often drive your story. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, what does your character want? What is their heart's desire? Is it the girl next door? Is it the boy next door? Is it to be rich? Is it to win a race? Is it to be top of the class? Is it to slay a dragon? What is your character's deepest desire? Once you know that, you have the beginnings of a story. Of course, having said that appearance doesn't matter, we all know that it does. So try and visualise your character and then sum them up in a little sketch. And I would suggest that you do this before you actually start writing. So think about what they look like. Are they short? Are they tall? Are they wide? Are they slender? How do they walk? Do they have a limp? Do they have any noticeable habits? Now that's important because if your character is a nervy character, quite nervous in temperament, which we're going to come to in a minute, that quite likely they are going to have some kind of nervous habit. I'm not sure what that might be, but you could think it through. They might be a bit of a fiddler, or they might be on their phone the whole time. Your character, you decide. My number 2 tip, what do they look like? What is their external appearance like? So, my number 3 tip to you is about your character's relationships. Obviously, relationships matter hugely in any story. You've got to think about the family. You've got to think about their friends. You probably have to think about their relationships with their teachers. So let's start at home. Assume that your character has a family. They might not. They might be in a children's home. They might be on the streets. They might be growing up in a commune. I don't know, your character. But for the sake of argument, my character's growing up in a household. Where do they come in the pecking order in that family household? Are they the oldest, in which case they're likely to have had stricter rules? Are they in the middle, where they might have got away with an awful lot of stuff, but maybe they've been a little bit ignored? Or are they the baby of the family, and has everybody tried to spoil them? What are their friendships like? Do they have friends? Do they not? Why not if they haven't got any friends? Maybe they've got one really, really good friend that they're desperately trying to cling on to. Maybe they've got lots and lots of friends, but secretly would love to have somebody really close. Relationships matter hugely in your story. They will help drive it forward and they'll give it a rounded completeness. That's where all the emotion lies in your tale. So my number 3 tip to you is think hard about your character's relationships. My number 4 tip. Now, I mentioned temperament earlier. That's something to think about because it sometimes manifests itself. I mean, look at me. I'm full of energy and it comes out in my fingertips. It sometimes manifests itself in physical characteristics. But temperament is very important, obviously, to your character because it will be a key driver to how they behave. And I've got a couple of tips for you. Get online and look up 16 personalities. That will give you the basic 16 personality types of most people. In fact, why not do that test on yourself? Find out what your personality type is like. You might be surprised. There are other personality tests. I use one that I kind of have constructed myself in my workshops in schools, but there's also the Myers-Briggs personality test. There's lots of them. Have a look online. Really good tip for helping to develop your characters. And beginning to understand my number 4 tip, what is your character's temperament? Already on my number 5 tip, and my number 5 tip to you is to talk to your characters, which I know sounds a bit weird, but genuinely I think you can really get to know your characters well by asking them a lot of questions. And you can do this however you like. I quite often get my dog to play the role of one of my characters and I ask him questions, but obviously I have to do the answers. And even if I didn't do the answers, as Patrick Ness has proven to us, a dog ain't got nothing much to say, even if you could understand its words. So I might play act with my dog in role, but you could do that maybe in a mirror or have a willing partner, or you could even just write it down. You want to be a writer, that's a good place to start, but just by writing down the questions and then filling in the answers. And they could be anything from what's your character's favourite food, to what's their favourite thing to do when they've got an afternoon off, to how would you react if I were to tell you you'd won the lottery. I don't know, you make up the questions depending on what your story is. I'm going to ask 15 some questions and see what kind of answers I get back. So, 15. It's lunchtime. Would you like a Marmite sandwich or something? I hate Marmite. I've told you that 1,000 times. God, not only am I stuck in this house, but literally I have to put up with you asking me the dumbest questions all the time. I hate Marmite. How many times do I have to say it? Yeah, okay. We'll leave it there. She's quite an angry character, 15. But she's also pretty sad. And I think some of the scenes where she's in very intense, if you like, combat with Tiva, I did have to try and think about that element of sadness as well, because she's lost a lot, 15, and she's desperate to get it back. But that brings me back to the number 1 question about your character's desires. So there you go. My number 5 tip is talk to your characters. So that's it. Those are my 5 top character tips. Number 1, desires. What are your character's desires? Number 2, what do they look like? What is their external appearance? Number 3, what are their relationships like? Number 4, what is their temperament like? Do a proper experiment by going online and doing one of those personality tests. And number 5, talk to your character. Get to know them inside out. You're going to need to, because you may well be stuck with them a long time.